Very warm greetings to all. Once, a famous therapist, Lisa Oliveira, rightly said, just because no one else can heal or do your inner work for you doesn't mean you can, should, or need to do it alone. It is uncommon in the Indian society to ask for help when it comes to mental health. On the contrary, the pandemic has made everyone aware of the importance of mental well being with physical well being. 26 years ago, the World Federation for Mental Health announced a day dedicated for mental health called the World Mental Health Day so that the awareness of mental health could be spread amongst everyone. Celebrated on the October 10th, it is used to advocate against social stigma of mental health. Starting with no theme and a few developed nations, the World Mental Health Day has evolved itself with wider themes and a multinational and multilingual approach. Today, on the occasion of Mental Health Day, we will be engaging ourselves in conversation with a psychiatrist and get to learn more about mental health. Let me welcome our guest of the day, Dr. R. Srinidhi Nithyanand, MBBS, MD, DMB, MNAMS. Dr. Srinidhi did her undergraduation in PSG Institute of Medical Sciences and Research, Coimbatore, and her post-graduation in psychiatry from St. John's National Academy of Health Sciences, Bangalore. Ma'am has completed certified advanced training in management of addiction disorders and perinatal psychiatry from National Institute of Mental Health and Neuroscience. Dr. Srinidhi has special interest in women mental health, child and adolescent psychiatry, psychotherapies, and gender adult psychiatry. Ma'am is currently a consultant psychiatrist at Kovai Medical Center and Hospital. On behalf of the entire NGP school management and students, I welcome you, Ma'am. Shall we proceed with the questions, Ma'am?
Sure.
Until a few decades back, there were hardly any mention of mental health or emotional well-being. If somebody was extremely ill mentally, then the person was called mad and was treated differently by the society. But now there has been a child who is mentally unwell and he or she is more aware of her emotional makeup. Does that mean people of those days were more stronger in mind and were more resilient, and it is not so today, Ma'am?
So there are two parts to the question. So I'll go with the first part. So the awareness of mental health is being huge these days. So that's a huge progress for psychiatry because it's how commonly do we tell people about I'm going to meet a psychiatrist or a psychologist about our mental health problems. As it is not as common as telling people that I'm going for a cough or a cold. So it's hugely stigmatized. So the raising awareness is actually going to help a lot of people who have such problems. So the raised awareness is actually a lot good. And the second part of the question is, does it mean that people those days were stronger? I would like to give you an example of maybe the solar system. So just because decades back we didn't know other planets existed, so it doesn't mean that they didn't. So it was not discovered, we didn't invent mental health, we just discovered it later. So there have been mental health problems, but earlier probably people were put in prisons for those kind of issues. They were with faith healers, and now probably they're getting the right help and right treatment because they're identifying more people with it. It's not that people were not there. And probably I would say minor mental health problems like depression and anxiety are more to do with coping with the general adversities in life. So now with increasing competition, we are in a competitive world, so that puts in a pressure, and maybe we are seeing minor common mental health problems a little more than previously. Because earlier we were looking at basic needs where we were looking for food and shelter. Now we are growing in a much faster pace, and we're looking at more economy, we're looking at more education. So now when the competition is more, the minor mental health problems are becoming more a challenge. So it's always been there.
Thank you, Mom. I am depressed has become a common statement these days. What actually does depression mean, and can one deal with it without any external help, doctor?
With the raised awareness, people are identifying themselves with more problems. They're able to name their emotions, which is very good. And I think depressed, I am depressed is a very common term. It is. I don't think people really mean it when they say it at times, because they say, "I feel very depressed today." So, what does depression actually mean? So, depression is not just a single symptom. It comes with a group of symptoms. So when things come together, like one is when they feel low, when they feel sad for a long time. It's not just one day. So somebody scolded you or somebody yelled at you, you feel upset that day, that doesn't make it depression. So you've been like that over 2 weeks, feeling upset for a period of 2 weeks, along with feeling very tired, not feeling like doing anything. And previously, probably if you were interested in drawing, painting, playing with your friends, you're no longer interested in all that. So these symptoms put together, along with some people tend to have sleep disturbance, they're not able to eat anything, they're not interested in anything. So all these put together, and when it persists for a long period of time, it's not just one day or half an hour, 1 hour, we're looking at least 2 weeks with these problems, then we call it depression. And the second part of question, whether we can deal with it ourselves. So depression comes in various grades. We have mild, moderate, and severe, depending on the degree of severity people experience. So when it's mild or moderate depression, people can take the help of people around them. So their main social support, be it their parents, be it their teachers, friends. So the other people, how they should support people when they're depressed is by active listening. So somehow when people tell us their problems, we are pressured to tell them something, but it needed to be the case. So we can just listen to them, probably allowing them to talk about it by itself soothes them, makes them feel much more comfortable, and still they feel uncomfortable, still they feel very upset. Then they can approach a professional for further help.
Thank you, Mom. What is your advice to students to take care of their mental well being? It is true that all of us are weighed down by their pressure that is being put on us due to high expectations that we have to meet. How do we cope up, Mom, without losing balance and stability?
So well-being, generally people, when they are sick, when they have a physical problem, they take off from school. But when they have a mental health issue, they are forced to come because they don't see it on the outside. We cannot prove by blood test or an X-ray saying that they have a problem. So generally people don't see it. So people believe that you can be stronger, and they push them to do something. So when you're not well, it gets very difficult to do things. And like you rightly said, it's becoming a very competitive world, and with students it's not easy, and the pressure is not the external pressure from the external, is also unconsciously the child also gets in the pressure. And when parents and teachers are aware of these mental health issues these days, and they are aware that they shouldn't put more pressure, but I think it's already internalized, and children, they feel that they have to be doing well, whether it is told on the outside or not. And I think the must and shoulds, that I must do well, I should do well, is what is putting more pressure on them. So that has to be taken care of. So studies is not going to be everything. It is very, very important, because to progress to the next level and next stage and whatever they want to study, they have to go on. But that is not everything. So their character, their values is also going to add on. And because a lot of children are coming with attempts of self-harm when they don't do well in exams, the pressure is internalized. They see a lot of pressure from their own side. So it becomes very, very important to take care of their mental health and well-being, so that they can focus better. And taking breaks is definitely not a waste of time, which most people think. So taking a break for 15 minutes, I can study this and I can finish off that. That's not the case. Your pace slows down. So taking adequate break is very, very important, and it's not a waste of time.
Thank you so much, Mom. The thing you told about breaks, maybe I should follow it more. Mom, this pandemic and the sudden change of lifestyle has posed mental stress all over the world. But we see children are the worst sufferers. How do you think we could create an environment so that we could feel normal and safe?
So the pandemic has taken a heavy toll on all of us, and like you rightly pointed out, children suffer the most. because they are having parents at home and elders at home who are worried themselves. And children looking at them, most of the time, children take courage from parents and elders around. And when the elders are stressed, it's very difficult for children also, first of all, for younger children to understand what's happening in the world. And adults are not in a position to tell them because they don't know themselves. And school has been major part in, I think, all children's life. School is very important, very big part of their environment. So missing school, not being able to meet friends, not being able to be in that normal social environment for them, and to add on to the pressure, online classes. So to sit facing the screens for a very long time is not at all easy. So definitely the challenges for children have become more. And to overcome that, I think maintaining a routine is very important. So irrespective of attending school from home or otherwise, they will have to. It is better if they have get up at the right time, have a bath, have food on time, sit for classes, take breaks in between classes, and also stay in touch with their friends so that they understand that it's not a situation only for them, and it's universal and everybody's having challenges, and having adequate playtime, because physical activity for younger children, for all of us, is very important. So maintaining a routine would actually help them come over this stress.
Thank you so much, Mom. As a psychiatrist, are there any do's and don'ts that you would recommend to students?
Definitely. I think most importantly is understanding their own self worth. We judge ourselves too harshly at times. We're not as kind as we are to others to ourselves. So the pressure, like we spoke about, is too much from our own side because the expectations are too much. And some of the expectations are not realistic. So I will have to study 10 chapters today might not be possible. We have to be practical with ourselves. And when that doesn't happen, they get very upset. And there are children who end up hurting themselves, banging themselves, because just that they cannot do something. I think the most important is understanding your self worth, and your self worth doesn't lie in numbers and percentages and other people acknowledging you. Your self worth should come from within. And all of us have different talents. You cannot ask a fish to walk and a horse to swim. So all of us have different talents. I think understanding what your talent is, you might as well, you have to do the other things for you to get into mainstream and doing other things, but the pressure needn't be this much. So most important, I think, understanding their self-worth is the most important thing that I would say, and not judging themselves too harshly. And also to remember we are all running our own race and we are not in competition with anybody. So if you're scoring an 80, it's better than a 70 that I scored last time, rather than saying somebody scored a centum and I scored only an 80. So I think also understanding that we have our own race and the race is only with us is, I think that would keep them at more mental peace and keep them calm.
Thank you so much, Mom. Mental health is very abstract term, Mom. We do not know what ailments are to be viewed seriously and what could be ignored. Could you tell us some early warning signs of psychological illness, Doctor?
Sure. So the mental well-being, like the physical well-being, doesn't. We'll start with, I think, the definition of health. So health is just not having a disease, but also to maintain physical, mental, and social well-being. So moving on to mental well-being, there are some common mental health disorders, and there are severe mental health disorders. The common mental health disorders would be depression, anxiety, and some substance use disorders like alcohol or smoking. These are common mental health disorders. And the severe mental health disorders would be things like bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, which are much more severe, and they require a lot more input and help. So, to identify some of the key pointers of mental health problems would be disruption in their normal routine. So, most important is all of us have mood fluctuations. So, our emotions are like weather; it keeps changing. So, when it keeps changing from one to another. When it's persistent for a long time. So, if you're sad for a very long time. Or if you're anxious right before exams or a viva, everybody would be anxious. So that is normal. So if it persists even after that, so we're looking at a duration, we're looking at a severity, we're also looking at disruption in our day-to-day life because of those problems. So these are things that we have to be concerned of, and probably take help when it's needed. And also, when there are sleep disturbances, it has affected you to a significant extent where you're not able to sleep, you're not able to enjoy anything, and sometimes you feel suicidal, or there are thoughts of harming yourself or thoughts of harming others, or uncontrolled use of substances. Because adolescents, youngsters these days resort to substances. By substances, I mean alcohol, smoking, and other drugs. So they feel it's a quick escape. So I needn't worry about anything. Let me take this and be happy. But that's not true. On the long run, there are a lot of issues. So when these are the pointers that we have to be looking at for people to be taken for help.
Thank you so much, Mom. We know that proper food and sleep are contributing factors to good health. Doctor, but do they impact the emotional well being of a person too?
100%. So these are basic needs. So sleep and food are basic needs. So generally we have up in the hierarchy a lot of needs. So these come under the basic, where food, shelter, sleep, these are basic. Then only if this is fulfilled can we move on to other levels of needs. Be it safety needs. Then comes something for your connectivity needs, where you establish connections with people. Then self-esteem and achieving needs. So these are not much up in the ladder. But we are always worried about climbing up in the ladder. But without a base, you cannot go up. So sleep and food is very, very essential. Sleep, we would go one and then the next one. So sleep is very, very important because it helps to consolidate memory. So just before exams, there are people who don't sleep and end up forgetting everything when they go to exams, because whatever you learn is consolidated in sleep. So sleeping 6 to 8 hours is very, very important, and it keeps you fresh and active and alert during the next day also. And it also protects your immunity. And I think it was addressed and talked about enough during COVID that you have to sleep well and eat well, because our only fight with COVID was our immunity. So that way it really helps. And also a balanced diet. Now with junk and all that, it leads to obesity, fatigue, and we are tired most of the time. Even young people are very tired. The older ones are running about and the young ones are very tired. I think it's the diet also is very, very important that way. And there are some specific things which also uplift your mood, like fruits, vegetables. These have a hormone called serotonin, which is very, very important, and that is a chemical that lacks in depression. So having a healthy, balanced diet with all this is very, very important. And there is also another important connection between the brain and the gut. Gut meaning the stomach and the intestine. So the mood, our emotions are regulated through the stomach. That's why when we feel upset, some people overeat, some people don't eat, because that also regulates our mood. That also depends on our mood. And sometimes when we eat something, we feel very happy. So there is a strong connection between your stomach and your brain. And that's also one reason why we feel butterflies in the stomach before Viva or before the exam. Because our emotions goes there, and whatever we eat also makes us happy. So there is a connection two-way. So definitely food and sleep are most important factors for maintaining our well-being.
It was really an interesting answer, Mom. I never knew the connection. Thank you so much, Mom. The World Federation for Mental Health has announced this year's theme for Mental Health Day as Mental Health in an Unequal World. Could you please elaborate on it, Doctor?
So we are more and more, as we progress, we are going into an unequal world. It's becoming very polarized. Like the rich are becoming richer and the poor are becoming poorer. So our global development will happen only if all of us progress together, and not just a few moving ahead and so many of us left behind. And this year's theme for mental health has been this, because I think people with mental health problems are also at a disadvantage, and they are going further backward and they're not taken forward. So protecting their rights and creating equal opportunities for them is what they like to enforce this year, and that's been the theme. So though mental health problems are a huge burden, so among the global burden of diseases, it comes on the top five. Depression comes on the top five, but still among the health, the GDP, how much is spent for each thing, the things they spend for depression is only 2% of the total health income. Only 2% is actually spent for mental health disorders, leave alone depression, on the whole for mental health disorders. So we know the burden is too much, but we are not creating facilities for people. We are not making it accessible for people. And most of the mental health disorders are also very common in developing countries, where 75 to 85% of the developing countries have these problems, where we don't have the facilities at all. So, and to add on to the burden, we also have stigma. About the statistics, there's about 80% of the people don't take help for at least 1 year for the mental health problem, be it minor problems or severe psychiatric issues. 1 year. 1 year is a very long time. So that really affects the whole course of the disease. So if they're taken treatment earlier, they would be much better. So we know the burden is too much, but we're spending too little for it. We're creating too little facilities. This is leading to a lot of disparity, and the mental health is getting further stigmatized. Though we claim more awareness, it is still stigmatized. So to create awareness and importance, give importance for this, I think they've chosen a very apt theme for the year.
Thank you so much, Mom, for being a part of this event and answering the questions patiently. Being a 12th grader and being aware of the mental stress and the pressure that is being put on us and having conversation with you about the same made me feel lighthearted and aware about a lot of things about mental health. Thank you so much, Mom.
Thank you. My pleasure being here.
See you all in another such event. Until then, this is Pritika Narayanan signing off. Thank you.